best entertainment on the earth. Tune in for Comics with Perch.
Hey everybody, this is Perch. I've talked about villains before, and the fact that villains just do not have as much of a presence in comics, or rather the villains have turned into kind of, generalized just collections of people. We want to show some angry, low intelligence racists with torches, and so the heroes will just kind of mow through them. Imagine how bored a lot of the heroes in the Marvel Universe are these days. It's like, what are we fighting? It's either some bizarre, crazy, cosmic entity thing that's just going to kick our ass for a while, and then one of us will step up and transform into a new form and take care of it, or, alternatively, it's a bunch of kind of rando militia members that are hanging out and they're angry about something, and we could just kind of mow them down. The life of a superhero has got to suck. Anyway, there's, of course, been plenty of villains that are well established, and one of the ones that obviously has been around for a long time is the Joker. And so this reader writes in with a comment about the Joker, and I think he's onto something. So it says, "Hey Perch, the Joker is my favorite comic book villain. However, I'm not too happy with the way he's been portrayed lately. Since the New 52, it seems he's been flanderized into a creepy killer whose only defining character trait is his obsession with Batman. Snyder and King's Batman runs come to mind. Tynion's as well. King didn't use that much of Joker, really, but definitely Tynion did, and that was Cord, and that was Snyder's bit as well. Writers and filmmakers also seem to forget that the Joker needs to be both a killer and a clown. He needs to be scary, but also theatrical, charismatic, and actually funny. Otherwise, it's just the Joker in name only." And that's very true, by the way. So he points out Azzarello's, I'll keep reading. Azzarello's graphic novel and the Joaquin Phoenix film come to mind. Frankly, I'll take a Joker story from Paul Dini, Chuck Dixon, or Dennis O'Neil over these more recent works anytime. Perhaps if the Joker were written in a more balanced and traditional manner, there wouldn't be so much Joker fatigue. I think much of the blame for these faulty portrayals stems from the excessive influence of Miller's Dark Knight Returns and Heath Ledger's version of the character. What are your thoughts? Well, I definitely do think that there is truth. Well, I think you're saying a few things there. I think that when a popular version of anything hits in comics, so take Dark Knight Returns, or with the movies, Heath Ledger's portrayal of the Joker, I think that immediately comics, it's like they can't help themselves. They immediately start to go all in on whatever that one trait was, whatever that one thing is. They can't help but drive it completely and thoroughly into the ground. And that's a little bit of what's happening here with the Joker. Is you do see kind of they're stuck on one portrayal. Scott Snyder does this, I love you, but I hate you kind of portrayal in his books early on. And it sells well, in part because the Joker is a popular villain, in part because you got Greg Capullo on art, in part because Scott Snyder's a rising star, and in part because Batman in general is just the comic people are going to pay attention to. So people go, oh, okay, this is the way we write Joker now. This is it. This is all we're going to do. And so you lose any kind of variety to the character. I think the Joker does not have to be an uninteresting character. I think there's plenty about the Joker that makes the character very interesting. But I think the fatigue comes not from them using the Joker, but them using the Joker pretty much doing the exact same thing over and over. And because the Joker's run the same playbook multiple times, there isn't the real feeling of danger. And as I mentioned before, that to me is the key to a villain, or really any conflict. There has to be a sense of peril. There has to be a sense that, bad things could happen if the hero isn't successful. This is frankly why, as kind of eye-rolling it is to see a lot of the current villains. I make the joke about, a bunch of the heroes fighting the one-off, militia members. The biggest problem with that is not that they're a stereotype. It's not that, calling out racism is bad. Calling out racism is always a good thing. You should call it racism, sure. But there's no sense of danger there when it's Ghost Rider against a bunch of racist bigots carrying tiki torches. Ghost Rider's going to win that fight, or Captain America, or Captain Marvel, or Superman. I mean, thank God they haven't done too much of that. Although I feel it's coming. Give Tom Taylor credit for this in his Superboy comic. He's fighting against Gamora and these kind of enhanced villains and everything else. Like, I keep waiting for there to be an issue where Superboy flies in and there's like just some racists, marching down the street. And I mean, come on. I mean, Superboy could just, there's a million ways Superboy stops that situation in its tracks. And the reader should not immediately start to think the comic is stupid for not just taking care of the problem in a page, because that's really all the problem warrants. And when you have comic after comic after comic that take these villains down to this one-dimensional level, that's what you get. So the problem with the Joker, as I see it today, is that when he is nothing more than, I'm obsessed with Batman. Batman, I'm here to be his, I'm his lover and his villain, and I'm going to continue to kind of screw with him. And it just, you don't ever wonder, how's Batman going to defeat him this time? I mean, even a little bit Tinian's last storyline, we're going to take Bruce Wayne down from a billionaire to a millionaire. It's like, in the context of these comics where the character always has whatever gadgets and everything they need at that exact moment for whatever the situation demands, I don't even know what that means. Is Bruce Wayne now living a millionaire life? How is that impacting the story? He's traveling around because he wants to regain his head after the events that went down in Gotham. Is Zdarsky going to continue this run where now he's a millionaire? So what he flies business class instead of first? Like these things make no sense. But all these things wind up being reductive. And the reason I got into that was the Joker's play. It's like the threat, the problem with that the Joker's going to bring this time, the danger, is that he's going to take a bunch of Bruce Wayne's money away. And he's going to take him from a billionaire to a millionaire. It's like, is that threatening? How is that threatening? We regularly see Batman up on the moon, traveling other dimensions, hanging out with the Justice League. Like, I don't know. I think this is a big thing that people get wrong about Batman is, yes, he's got money. He's got some unknown amount of just cash. But him being a billionaire or a millionaire, how much his net worth actually is meaningless to the story. Anytime you dive into that, you're diving into the wrong parts of the comic. You're diving into things that nobody cares about. That's the challenge. So I mean, this has been the issue, and I think the Joker's very much in the trap of this, and I think almost all characters are sliding into that. Catwoman. I read a new issue of Catwoman by the new writer Tini Howard, and as I'm reading it, it's like there is nothing in here that actually feels like the complex, layered character. It's just Catwoman's here, and there's a villain, and the villain's trying to get one over on her, but Catwoman's sneaky, and so she's able to do it first, and okay, that's what we got. I think the Joker is at his best when he's unpredictable. And I think unpredictable by its nature is popular in comics. That's why I think the Joker's been such a powerful, popular character for so long, is because it mixes up two things people like. I don't know where this is going, so I need to buy the issue to find out. And you got this psychotic killer who's doing psychotic killer things. Perfect. Those two go together, and you can get a good comic out of that. But, if you make the villain if you take away maybe the most interesting part of the Joker, which is kind of unpredictable psychotic, then you're left with just kind of a character that we kind of vaguely recognize. We're not vaguely, we recognize right away by appearance, but the personality is just some vague shadow of themselves. That's the way I see it. I don't know, the villains in comics topic I keep coming back to because I do think it's probably the biggest problem in terms of the story writing, is this reluctance to make really big threats that are really gonna put our heroes through the grinder. And so it's become a go-to question when I ask people about it, when I interview people, like, what's the villain? What's the threat? I didn't do it with Nick Patera, but almost every other interview, like, what's the threat that we're going to get? Is it meaningful? And you can always kind of tell when you're talking to somebody if they're like, well, maybe part of the threat is themselves. I'm like, oh no, just stop with that bullshit. It's who's the threatening character? What's going to be the thing that drives us to want to pick up the next issue because we really are concerned about what's going to happen next? What is the threat? Hell, Scott Pilgrim had the evil boyfriends who were trying to kill him. It was comical, but it still represented a threat. The threat that he couldn't be with the girl he liked. It's a simple premise, but it is a premise, and it's more than what a lot have going for them. So I agree with you. I think they should write Joker, write Joker back like he used to be. He was much more interesting as a character back then. But anyway, thank you very much for the question, and thanks for listening.